Welcome to the Office of Student Services Media Library, brought to you by your host, Mr. Pulliam.
Hey there, students, and welcome to another digital lesson from the Office of Student Services Media Library. Today, I want to take a couple moments out of your day to talk about a pretty serious topic. So I know you guys are going to laugh and joke, but I think it's important for us to talk about sexual consent because it's a reality for people today in our society. So I just ask that you take it seriously. I know you're going to want to laugh and giggle, and there are times that are appropriate for that, but I also want you to understand that this is a serious topic that affects us as people. Whether we're engaging in this kind of activity or not, it's still important to talk about because we want to make sure you're as safe as possible. So before we get started, I want you guys to make sure that if you opted out of this video lesson, that you go to a different LEAD class or wherever your teacher's sending you, because I want to make sure that you don't get this material if your parents don't want you to have this material, okay? So just a warning, go ahead, have your teacher pause this video and let anyone who is opted out go ahead and leave. Otherwise, buckle up and we're getting ready to roll. Okay, so first off, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is consent. So sexual consent is an agreement to participate in a sexual activity. So before you're sexual with someone, you need to make sure you know if they want to be sexual with you. So that means, guys and girls, you need to ask. Don't just assume if you're dating someone or if you're talking to someone or if you're texting someone that they want to have sex with you or do a sexual activity with you. You still need to ask blatantly, do you want to have sex with me? Do you want to do X, Y, and Z with me? Because if you don't ask, you're not going to know. And vice versa, it's important for you to be honest with your partner about what you want and what you don't want. If you're not ready to have sex or if you're not interested in it right now, then be honest about it and say no. No is an okay answer. You don't have to feel bad for saying no. You don't have to feel guilty for saying no, because at the end of the day, it's your body and you choose when you're ready. So no is okay. And consenting and asking for consent are all about setting your personal boundaries and respecting the personal boundaries of your partner. In a relationship, in a healthy relationship, I should say, it's important to respect the personal boundaries of your partner because you have to remember they're human too. And they have standards and desires and values that you want to make sure you're helping them keep. And if things aren't clear, then you need to check in and make sure that they're clear, okay? So before you do any type of sexual activity, I want you guys to remember that both people must agree to it every single time for it to be consensual. So if you do something on Saturday and want to do something again on Monday, you have to ask still, because they might have said yes on Saturday, but they might not say yes on Monday. So you need to make sure that you ask every single time. That's really important, guys, okay? So listen carefully to this. Without consent, any sexual activity, including oral sex, genital touching, or vaginal or anal penetration, is sexual assault or rape. So listen, if your partner does not say yes, and if they are not in the correct state of mind to say yes, then that is sexual assault or rape. You have to have a yes when they are in the correct state of mind for it to be consensual sex. Otherwise, you can get in big trouble and put yourself in unsafe situations. So please understand that, guys. That is very important, okay? So now I'm going to give you guys a couple basic concepts of consent. So there's 5 basic concepts here. So first one is it's freely given. So when you give consent, it's a choice you make without being pressured or manipulated or under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So it is a conscious decision with no influence that you as an individual makes. So if your boyfriend and girlfriend are pressuring you into it and you feel like you have to say yes, that's not consensual. That is rape. Okay, guys? And I know that sounds harsh, and I know it sounds hard to deal with, but it's true. If you do not have consent, it is not consensual sex, and therefore it is sexual assault or rape. You guys need to know that, okay? It's reversible. Consent is always reversible. Anyone can change their mind about what they feel like doing at any time. Even if you've done it before, and even if you're both naked in bed, you can still change your mind. Now, this is important. If you give consent before you do anything on Saturday night at 10, and then afterwards you feel guilty for it, you can't change that consent. So if you give consent, it is good for that activity only. If you don't give consent, then it's not good. You don't do it. But you can't say you were sexually assaulted if you gave 100% clear consent at that moment, okay? Next is informed. So you can only consent to something if you have the full story. So if someone says they're going to use a condom while having sex and then they don't, that isn't full consent because you did not agree to that. You agreed to a different set of circumstances. So that's why it's really important to be completely clear with your partner before doing anything. Now, guys, I'm not encouraging you to have sex. Like, this is not what I'm doing. I, as a person, believe you should wait until marriage, but I know that's not for everyone, so I want to make sure you guys are prepared, okay? So just to clarify, this is not me telling you to go have sex. This is not me telling you how. This is just me clarifying that it is important for you to get consent before doing anything, okay? And understanding that no means no, okay? So you guys need, and then finally, you guys have to be enthusiastic about it. So you should only do stuff that you want to do. If you feel like you're expected to do something, don't do it. Because you should not do things that you're expected to do. You should only do things that you want to do, okay? This is your decision, okay? And then next, and finally, specific. So, consent has to be specific in that you say yes to one thing, like going to the bedroom to make out, does not mean you've said yes to other things like having sex, okay? So if you agree to make out, that does not mean you agree to touching or to sex. That means you agree to kissing, okay? Just like if you agree to hug or cuddle, that doesn't mean you agree to kiss. And consent applies all across physical touch. So you should always try to receive consent before doing any kind of physical touch. That doesn't even mean just sex. Like, if you're going to make out with someone or if you're going to kiss someone, like, sometimes you should ask. And I know your friends might make fun of you if you say, yeah, I asked this girl if I could kiss her, but that's good. That means you're respecting her as a person, and vice versa. A girl, if you say, can I kiss you to a boy, that means you're respecting him as a person, okay? And that you're respecting his physical boundaries that he or she might be setting for themselves, okay? So remember, it is specific. Okay. So next, who has the final say on whether you have sex with someone? So if you're under 18, it's probably your parents, right? I mean, your parents are going to say whether they want you to do those kind of things or not, and whether they think you're ready for them. But at the end of the day, we also know you're not always going to listen to them, okay? So remember that you get the final say over what happens with your body, not your partner, okay? When I say you, I'm comparing you and your partner over who has the final say, not you and your parents, because I'm not encouraging you to have sex right now. That's not happening. I'm just preparing you for what you need to do to keep yourself as safe as possible. So remember, you get the final say over what happens with your body, guys. It doesn't matter if you've hooked up with that person before or if you even said yes earlier in the day and then changed your mind. You're allowed to say stop at any time, and your partner needs to respect that. So we're going to get slightly graphic, but if you are close to penetration and your partner says stop, you need to stop right there, okay? Whenever someone says stop while doing a physical activity, whether it's hugging, kissing, making out, or sexual activities, and they say stop, you have to stop. Otherwise, that is not consensual, and it is sexual assault or rape, guys. And I know that you probably weren't expecting this to be this serious, but it is, because you guys need to know what the penalties are for such things, okay? Like, this is a serious topic, and consent is important, okay? Just watch the news lately, and you'll see that when consent is not clear, people get in trouble, regardless of where they're at in life, regardless of how high they are on on the popularity or famous scale. Like, everyone can get in trouble for this. So you might be asking, well, Mr. Pulliam, what if I just know they're interested in me? Like, what if I just know they want to have sex with me? Well, you can't just know. That's literally impossible. Consent is never implied by things like your past behavior, what you wear, or where you go. Sexual consent is always clearly communicated, and there should be no question or mystery about whether your partner wants to have sex with you. So just because, boys, I'm talking to you right now, just because a girl wears a low-cut shirt or short shorts and sends you Snapchats in those outfits, that doesn't mean she wants to have sex with you. That probably just means she's comfortable in those clothes and she wants to wear those clothes, okay? And vice versa, girls, if a boy's sending you pictures without his shirt on, of his abs, or just in his boxers or something, that doesn't mean he wants to have sex with you. Maybe he's just comfortable and wants to be comfortable in his own home, okay? So don't just assume that someone wants to have sex with you based on their past behavior or what they wear or where you guys go together. And also, remember, silence is not consent, guys. If someone doesn't say anything, if you ask them to have sex with you, that's not consent. That means no. The only thing that means consent is yes. Yes. That's it, okay? And it's not just important the first time you're with someone. So couples who have had sex before, or even ones who've been together for a long time, even people who are married, they need to have consent before sex every single time. Because if your partner isn't feeling it, then they can say no, and you have to respect that. You should respect that. If you really care about them, if you really care about someone, you should respect their desire to not do something. You should respect their desires and values and boundaries. So if you're pressuring someone into having sex, most of the time that doesn't mean you really care about them. That means you care about you and you care about your desires, okay? Because at the end of the day, love is not, I want this, I'm going to get it. Love is caring more about someone else than you care about yourself, okay? So remember that. Silence is not consent. And if you pressure someone, that doesn't count as consent either. Okay. So next we're going to talk about what are the legal ramifications of consent. So guys, there are laws about who can consent and who can't. So people who are high, drunk, or passed out cannot consent to sex. So if you're at a party and some boy is like, yeah, I totally want to have sex, let's do this thing, and then he passes out, you can't have sex with him. Or vice versa, if a girl says yes and then she passes out, you can't have sex with her even if they said yes before. Because unconscious people cannot consent to sex. It's impossible. They're unconscious. Okay? And then there are also laws to protect minors, so people who are under the age of 18, from being pressured into sex with someone much older than them or even older than them. So if you are 19 and you pressure someone who's 17 into having sex that is not consensual, you will get in big trouble. Okay? So you guys need to know that and be aware of that. Even if it's just 2 years older, or even if it's just a year older, you have to be aware of that, okay? So the age of sexual consent is technically how old a person needs to be in order to legally be capable of consenting to sex. So adults who have sex with someone younger than the age of consent face jail time and being registered as a sex offender. So if you are a 18-year-old boy and you sleep with a 15-year-old girl, or if you're an 18-year-old girl and sleep with a 15-year-old boy, even if you're dating, even if you're in the same school, even if you're both still in school, you can still face jail time and being registered as a sex offender if their parents do not consent to it because they're not of the legal age of consent. Then finally, the age of consent varies in different parts of the U.S. and in different countries. So Ohio's might be different than Texas's, okay? And then there may also be some other laws that define the age of sexual consent by the state. Does that make sense? Okay. So now, guys, we're going to take a couple minutes, just about 2.5, and we're going to watch this video. So this video is really funny, and I know you're going to laugh, okay? But I also want you guys to take it seriously. So make sure you're watching it with a serious attitude, and it's okay if you laugh some. But if you don't understand consent after watching this video, I'm going to be honest with you, you probably aren't going to understand consent, which is not good, which is going to get you in a lot of trouble. So pay close attention and enjoy this video. as it can't make consent any easier to understand than it already does. Okay?
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you." Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you can make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware that they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important bit, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you're entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say, "No thank you," then don't make them tea at all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, "Yes, please, that's kind of you." And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind, and you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they are unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea, and they can't answer the question, "Do you want tea?" because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea, and they said yes, but in the time it took you to boil the kettle or brew the tea and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down, make sure the unconscious person is safe, and this is the important part again, don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they are safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. Going, "But you wanted tea last week," or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, "But you wanted tea last night." If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you are able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea.
Okay, guys. So, I hope you enjoyed that little video, as it always makes me laugh, but I think it's a perfect representation of consent. So, just like with tea, if someone says they don't want tea, or someone says they don't want sex, respect that. Okay. So, guys, thank you for watching another digital lesson from the Office of Student Services Media Library. Hope you guys learned a lot about the topic of consent, and that you understand the significance, which I spelled the word wrong there, of receiving it, okay? And most of all, remember that no means no, that when someone says no or stop, they mean no and stop, and you need to respect that. And that your body is your own, okay? Do not let someone pressure you into having sex until you're ready. They will wait until you are ready, okay? They will respect your decisions and respect your boundaries, okay? So thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Thank you for watching another digital lesson from the Office of Student Services Media Library. And don't forget, it's a great day to be a Paint Valley Bearcat.